Wilson. I am Chelsea Marchetti, and I'm going to be your mediator today, and hopefully we can all work together and find a mutual solution to your current problem. To make it more comfortable, you can call me Chelsea. At the same time, I was wondering what each of you would like to be addressed as. Mr. Burns?
Mr. Burns is fine.
Okay, great. Mrs. Wilson?
Miss Wilson.
Okay. It also makes everyone feel more comfortable when they are addressed in the manner of their choosing. Let's get started. Before we get started, actually, I would like to explain my role for today and how I'll be assisting you both during today's mediation. I am a neutral third party who will listen to what you both have to say in its entirety. It is not my job to pass judgment or give my opinion on who is right or who is wrong. You do not need to worry about convincing me since I am not a judge, and I will not be giving you a verdict. Our ultimate goal here is to reach a mutual decision. I am a tool to make that happen. Mediation is an informal process. Everything I learn and hear today will now leave this room. If you want to leave this room, that's ultimately up to the two of you. In mediation, you are both able to conclude your own verdict. In litigation, the ultimate decision is up to the judge and is out of your hands. We can all agree that reaching a decision here today would mean avoiding trial and the costs that are associated with it. However, if we cannot reach a decision or one of you does not feel comfortable with what the other party is bringing to the table, litigation is not off limits. In some cases, litigation is the best option for both parties involved. With that being said, do not settle or agree to something unless you are honestly satisfied with it being a solution. Do either of you have any questions before we begin?
No.
Great. One of the things I usually like to establish at the start of all mediations are mutual rules in which to abide by. This often helps facilitate the process in a positive manner. For example, some clients like rules like no speaking when the other person is speaking, or no cursing. There's a bunch of different rules that could work. But keep in mind that the purpose of these rules are not to control or punish the other party. The rules are simply meant to help. As your mediator, I am able to hold you both individually to these rules and remind you once you violate one. However, the examples I talked about previously are just suggestions. I'm open to hearing all suggestions from the two of you. Also, please keep in mind that rules are not mandatory during mediation, and it's just an extra tool if both parties would like to need one. To start off, do either of you have any ideas or any rules that you're interested in establishing?
No.
Okay, so let's first start by hearing both sides of the story, and we'll let the person talk in their entirety, and when it's the next person's turn to talk, they can give their side. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
All right, Mr. Burns, let's see.
All right. So I put in policy a new policy concerning personal days because people have been taking them regularly and it's been affecting work. And I assumed that most people were at the meeting and heard about this policy, and they have requested a day off within 24 hours before they take the day off. Wilson had taken Monday off, and it actually caused.
Do you have the date of that Monday?
February 22nd.
Okay.
And we had to actually turn in a new policy to a company, and by noon, and because of the absence, it got turned in 6 hours later. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Well, in my defense, Mr. Burns is a new supervisor here, and we had this unwritten policy that was never formally written in our employee handbook. We would just be able to take personal days off.
Whenever you wanted them? Okay.
Correct. So on this particular Monday, I had made sure that I had coverage for the day. I had asked a coworker to make sure that my proposal would be submitted in on time, seeing that we were handling this big Fortune 500 company, and I knew it was vital to the company, for this new marketing proposal that we were submitting, that it was vital that it be handed in on time. And I had thought I had coverage with a coworker. Her name is Pam.
Pam?
Yes. And I believe that she was going to be in on Monday, but unbeknownst to me, she ended up calling out sick. And I did not know this until I arrived in work on Tuesday when I was reprimanded by Mr. Burns for taking a personal day off.
Okay. In which way did Mr. Burns reprimand you?
He was going to dock me $350 in pay.
Okay.
Also, put a letter of written warning into my employment records.
Okay.
Which, considering that I didn't know that this new policy had been written, I was unknown to me that we weren't supposed to be just taking personal time off without Mr. Burns's permission.
Would you say that having a letter in your file wouldn't reflect you as an employee, and that's one of the reasons why you wish to have it removed?
That's something I would like to discuss probably in private. It's
Okay.
not something I really want to divulge why I don't want it in my record right now.
What did you receive a phone call from Pam saying that she was covering for Mrs. Wilson?
No, I never received any extra.
So Pam didn't say she didn't call in sick. She just didn't show up.
Pam didn't show up. But I think no, Pam didn't show up, and I had no idea that there was any coverage conflict because I just went by the schedule. That was up.
I was just curious if Pam made a mention of it in her message about not coming.
I mean, Mr. Burns has only been with our company for 6 months, and he's come in here and made all these changes, and I commend him for all the good policy changes that have been made, but because I wasn't at the meeting, or I missed part of the meeting where she was addressing the new policy changes about the personal days, I feel as though I'm being reprimanded a little harshly.
Okay. Do you have a response, Mr. Burns?
I mean, after careful consideration, I did realize you were not at the meeting that took place about the new policy that was at hand. But it's still not right that you didn't give any reason to why you took the day off. You just randomly took the day off.
All right. Well, at this point, I feel like I could counsel you both independently for a little while and just to talk about everything. And when you do talk with me one-on-one, it is private, and I will not go back to the other person and give out any information. But sometimes when you feel secure, you tell more, and we can find a better decision that way. Would you be up for that? Okay.
Yes.
Who would like to stay?
Would you like to go first, Mr. Wilson?
You can go first.
Okay, thank you.
You can just step out, and I'll be with you in shortly.
No problem.
Okay, so let me just make sure I have everything that you feel. You were not at the meeting. Did Mr. Burns ever say anything about an attendance at the meeting?
I'll tell you a little bit about my personal
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
I had to take Monday off because I got charged with the DUI, and I didn't want to disclose that to my employer. I
Right.
was kind of embarrassed by it, and I thought it would be best if I just kept it to myself. And we had been taking personal days
Right.
in the past, just as long as we had coverage and we had somebody to handle our business for the day. It's never been a problem. That's where I feel as though as I'm being reprimanded, a little harshly.
Does the company have a policy about when you do take a personal day, whether you have to say what the day is, or is it usually just a personal day, you take it as you wish?
You just take it as you wish. Like I said in the beginning, it was just an unwritten policy that was never officially written in our employee handbook.
Is the new change that when you do take a personal day, you have to give notice, get it approved, and say why that?
Yeah,
Oh,
why
wait,
we
so
needed a
now you have to
personal
say
day.
why, and before that was never a question.
Right.
Okay, I could see how that could be confusing.
Right, and it's left me very, a bad taste in my mouth
Right.
to have a letter written in my employment records. And, I feel really guilty because my actual court date was, I got done fairly quickly at court. I think I finished like around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But I considered that I had Pam for coverage.
Right.
Yes, I'm at fault for not contacting Pam to see if she actually went to work and sent in the proposal. but I feel as though, it's a 30-minute drive from the courthouse.
It's a long day.
It was a long
You took
day.
the day.
I also have other issues. I have a brother that's, how do I put it, unemployed. Both my parents are deceased. And he's got a drug problem that I've been trying to help him out with. And he's constantly interrupting me at work. And that's another thing I don't want to divulge to my employer.
Right.
It's all about my personal business.
Right.
So, I'm willing to take part of the blame, but I don't want to be docked
Right.
$350. I really just can't financially afford it with having my brother living with me, and
Right.
it's just a financial burden on my part.
What would you like to, you feel the whole punishment was a little harsh. What would be your 100% good outcome?
I would
Have
be,
you thought about it?
well, I've been thinking about, I would be willing to be docked something for the
Something.
personal
Okay.
day, just not the full $350. Considering I wasn't there during that meeting when
Right.
Mr. Burns had announced his new policy about personal days, and I just don't want that letter in my file
At all.
At all,
Okay.
because I don't want that affecting my future raises.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a legitimate concern.
Right, and like I said, I was called away on an emergency call during that meeting, and that's why I wasn't present for this new announcement and policy changes.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me? I feel like I have a good understanding.
Yeah,
So when you walk out, you can get Mr. Burns and bring him in.
I'll have to go find Mr. Burns, so then.
Probably not.
Okay.
Really out of the screenshot.
You know, when it goes like,
Did it?
all right, I don't know.
Did it just record the last word?
I think it's recording still. We're still going. We're at 12 minutes.
Oh,
Come down, Mr. Burns. Come sit. Come sit. Okay, so I just want to start by saying, just tell me whatever you wish to tell me first. Any background information that you think would help us come to a decision, and we can go from there.
The proposal. I did propose the policy a little late, and the late proposal of the new policy actually did cause me to also get reprimanded.
Okay.
So that's why it's kind of not fair people are taking the personal day. It does reflect on the group as a whole and not just one person.
Was there an attendance taken at the meeting, or?
I don't think there was, but it looked like most people were there,
Okay.
so that's
Okay.
what I assumed. But I feel like my authority is what's actually being tested because people are not taking my policy seriously, and I have been here. The old supervisor let them get away with a lot, and I want to change that.
That makes sense. Were there any other employees that had a similar problem?
Not comes to mind right now.
Okay.
There wasn't a handbook that the old director, the old supervisor had. So I've just been making a handbook up and going to help.
The handbook's not out yet.
No,
Okay.
Like the way I put the policy together, I didn't really go through it. I just threw it together to help to try and counteract the amount of personally based people were taking.
Okay. What would be your best outcome in this situation? Have you thought about a final solution that you feel is fair and still respects you and your authority?
I got a valid reasoning why she was out, and probably I wouldn't be opposed to taking the doctor payout. But But the grievance on her file is, I'm a little opposed to that because of the fact that I also have one on my file because of the situation, because of it being, because of the
So what does, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly does your letter in your file say?
um
Like implemented policy too fast, or
it's
just trying to understand that?
it's not, I don't think it's of my policy, it's not of my policy, it's of the fact that the contract that we were supposed to send into the Fortune 500 company was late, and because
Okay.
of how negative the company was, it's because I'm the supervisor, it got reflected on me that
And
the group
but the policy, let me just make sure I'm understanding. So the policy was sent in late, which you've said, which was your fault. Mrs. Wilson didn't have any influence on you making the policy late.
No, she did, because it was her, because I was waiting for her part. Like it's every
I'm sorry, I did not.
yeah, it's everybody's
So
part that was
okay,
late.
so it was kind of like a chain reaction when
Yeah.
someone was out and it wasn't okay.
So
I'm
everybody
sorry.
had to get everything together, and
Okay.
it took longer because the person who was in control of Mrs. Wilson's specific part now had to come up with it, and it was due by a certain time.
And let me just reiterate that I understand this. So the new policy that you created states that when a personal day is taken, the employee needs to provide reasoning and prior notice to get approved.
It's not reasoning. It's,
I don't need to say why.
I don't think the policy didn't have reasoning. It was they needed to ask for it
In advance.
so that
Okay.
so there'd be enough coverage to cover all the work that still has to be done.
Okay. Now, after talking to Mrs. Wilson, I understand both of your points of view and ideas on the situation. And you both have mentioned things that you'd be willing to agree upon, and like neither of you have your feet in the mud, and you do want to get this through the mediation. And mediation was a great choice because you both will be dealing with each other in the future. So just keep that in mind when the negotiation process starts, because sometimes it's easier to still stick up for what you want, but keep in mind that it's not never seeing everyone again. Okay, so from a third party, I was looking at it, and I believe that since the policy did not state that you need to say the reasoning of why they were absent, that Mrs. Wilson technically does not need to tell you that, and if she isn't telling you the reasoning up front and right away, it could be a very personal reasoning that she couldn't. Personal reason that she didn't feel comfortable or wanting her employers or anyone else to know about her. I'm not saying that is the situation, but you always have to think about that is. And when you said earlier, you said you would like to know why she didn't come that day. If you both agree upon the new policy that you understand it, would you be willing to not know the reasoning as why she couldn't come?
Yeah.
If you sat here and said the policy to her and where it stands, and you both agreed and said that you heard it here,
Yeah.
you'd be willing to do that? Okay. And you said that you're not willing to get rid of the letter because you have one as yourself. And she was docked $350 for that day. Are you willing to budge on that number at all?
Yeah,
You are.
I'll budge on it.
What did you have in mind? Because on an average day, she makes $350, and beknownst to her that she wasn't going to get that $350 because she didn't assume that this would be an issue. So what was the number you were thinking?
Of docking or
Like of the total, like the $350 was the original amount that you said she should be docked of her pay. What are you thinking is fair?
I mean, like
150, half of it, or
a little
more than half?
A little more than half, because it was a very important day.
Okay, I understand that. So where you stand now is 150 docked for the day, and letter stays in the file. And agreed upon, that you explain the new policy to her, she agrees upon it, and we move on from there.
Yes.
Okay? I will come back to you before anything is agreed upon, and I will not say anything you told me or numbers exactly. But could you step in the hallway and bring Mrs. Wilson in so I could see if you're on the same page? Mr. Burns, will you step out for another second, please? Thank you. Okay, so after talking to Mr. Burns, he does agree that he's willing to budge on the original verdict of the docking and the whole situation. I believe that we could get him to come down on the price of your pay lost. However, I'm not sure if the letter would be removed from the file.
Okay, that's not something I'm willing to budge with. I don't want to feel like that I'm being taken advantage of.
Another thing we talked about was I said that if you didn't originally, Mr. Burns was very curious about why you were missing work because he knew that it was an important day for the whole company, and he felt that you knew that it was an important day, so it was like kind of risky to take that day. But I was talking to him and said that it was a personal day and that you might not feel comfortable for whatever reason sharing that. And originally he wanted to know. He said that he would let it go, and that if you two talked about it and hear about the policy and where it stands, that he'd be willing to move on.
Okay. Like I said, it's really something personal.
Right. No, and I explained like whatever it could be that there's a chance they wouldn't feel comfortable, and he understood that.
Okay.
When I explained it like that,
Right.
I think before he just saw it as like this is a very important day for the company. Like what could be more important than the company?
Right.
But then I just explained that we don't know why, but it was your business to keep your business
Private. Right.
exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stand firm.
Okay. Well, what price would you think is fair docking of pay?
Well, I think a half a day, if we can cut the $350 in half to like say 175, and a removal of the letter.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to request a formal hearing.
Okay, I think that what we should do now is leave the money aside and talk about the letter.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you guys are both on the same page, and maybe if you see each other and talk about it, it would be helpful.
Okay.
And keep in mind that obviously you are aware, but you'll be working together in the future, so sometimes that helps make more rational decisions.
Right. Okay.
So I'm going to go get Mr. Burns, and we're going to just discuss the letter, so you
Okay.
still don't need to discuss anything that you don't feel comfortable about.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Burns, come on in. Okay, so after having private caucuses with both of you, it's come to my mind that the issue of the letter in the file is something that we're not really on the same page about. But I would like you both to kind of tell each other your feelings on that letter, and to see if maybe hearing the other person's point of view or seeing why they feel that way about it could make you more understanding. Or so, Mr. Burns, who would like to go first?
Well, Mr. Burns, seeing that he's not willing to take the letter out of my file.
Okay. I feel like the letter should stay in your file because it's showing that policies that are in place. It's showing that policies that are in place can be violated, and it's not fair. Because I'm trying to implement the policy so that everybody understands it, and to top it off, the letter also showing that I do have power, and I do take what I am doing very seriously, and it's not like something that we just put in at random. Like I do go through careful thought before I do this.
I just feel that the wording of your letter was a little harsh, considering that I followed all our past policies of making sure that I had coverage. I was unaware that Pam was going to call out sick that day. I had something very personal on Monday that needed to be attended to. And yes, I do understand that I was called away from your meeting on an emergency. It was a family emergency. So unbeknownst to me, policy was changed and nothing was given to me in writing except for
Any notes from the meeting were passed out, Mr. Burns?
No, I think I had just assumed somebody was in it.
Right, so seeing that there was nothing put in formal writing and I had followed our previous policy, I think I'm being a little harsh here, Mr. Burns. I'm willing to go and have the reduced of the 350 if we could discuss that, cut that in half, and then really just take that letter out of my file because that's going to affect my pay raises from here on forward.
Just hearing that, Mr. Burns, do you think you'd consider revising the letter in the file to say something like, Mrs. Wilson was unaware of the policy change. We have since talked about it, and this is not reflecting her character and her everyday workplace problem, but you just want to make a note of it, like change the wording, make it softer and more accurate that describes Mrs. Wilson's work ethic?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
You wouldn't be opposed to that? Would that make you happy?
I think I can probably go as long as it's worded properly that I followed old policy unknown to the
Now you're aware of the new one.
policy, and if we could just move forward because we have to work together, Mr. Burns. And I do love and I am devoted to my job here. It just happened to be this Monday I had a desperate personal issue that needed to be attended to.
Okay, so now I believe that do we agree to that on the letter? That we will revise the letter to reflect the situation a little more accurately. And now I'm just going to have one more private caucus with the two of you to kind of get a closer number, and then we'll come together and talk about it one more time.
Okay, that's fair. So you could speak with Mr. Burns.
Okay. All right, so when I last spoke with you, you said that you were willing to do 175.
Yeah.
I believe 160 would be a number that would be fair out of my assessment.
Okay.
Would you be willing to? I mean, I'm trying to meet everyone in a good place, and I believe that you could get 160 docked. Because you said to me that you would take 175. Can I take? Or you said that you would take.
A document.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could you? No, didn't you say 175? Okay, Mr. Burns, erase that. Mr. Burns, you said that you would 150. You'd just take 150.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you could dock 160, and that would be fair.
Okay.
So are you down to do 160? I'll see if the other party is on the same page and to step out, and we'll get this done soon.
Okay.
All right, Mrs. Wilson, after talking to Mr. Burns, I believe that last time we talked, you said that you'd be okay with 175 being taken out. I believe that 160 is a more fair number, and I believe that I could get Mr. Burns and you on the same page with the 160.
Okay.
So, the letter, did you feel comfortable with that discussion? I just wanted to make sure you did.
As long as the letter reflects.
We can draft the letter today here before we meet.
Okay.
And I can sign that I saw it, so he
Okay.
doesn't change it in the past.
Right. Okay.
Perfect. So I'm gonna go get Mr. Burns, and we can hopefully come to an agreement.
Great. Thank you.
Burnsy, come in. All right. I believe that we could come to a mediation agreement right now. We have the letter that will be redacted. I think we could draft it after we sign on the dotted line that we agreed today before. So just so everyone's fair about the letter, you're going to tell Mrs. Wilson about the new policy, and she'll, in front of me, say that she understands it. We can sign that document that you have proof that she is aware of it. And as part of the docking, $350 is originally what Mr. Burns took from Mrs. Wilson for not showing up for work. And I believe that $160 is a number that we could perhaps agree about being taken out instead of $350.
I agree.
Okay, great. So, you want to sign this saying that everything I said is true? And then we're gonna, you can explain the situation to explain the new policy, and we'll draft it and we'll be good today.
Okay. Well, thank you for helping us resolve our issue.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Burns, I'm very sorry for causing all this aggravation, but sometimes you have to take a stance what you feel is right.
It's very true.
Well, thank you for hearing my side and listening to your side as well.
You both were very open to the process, accepting of it, and that's what usually makes great mediations.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I love sharing. You know the thing about how it's like